You know, hunters, despite the series being called Monster Hunter, I wouldn't actually call all of them monsters. Some of these monsters are just some pretty chill dudes. Like Azeroth just wanting to eat some fish, eat some honey, chill out, sit down, relax. I mean, shit, he just like me. Chameleos, even though he scares the shit out of me sometimes, he's just a silly guy. He don't bother nobody, really. And then Yamasukami and Lao Shen Lung just kind of chilling, just moving along with their business. Or I guess floating in Yamasukami's case. But unfortunately, that's not all the monsters. Some monsters are cruel, evil, and downright sinful. And those are the monsters we are going to be looking at today. The 7 deadly sins of Monster Hunter. Now, disclaimer everyone! Disclaimer, a lot of monsters represent the same, sin. Like, do you know how many motherfucking monsters are prideful? Every single one of them thinks that they're the shit. And that's cap. Only one of them is. And it's Seregios, I'm sorry to tell you. But listen, right? The monsters that I name have just been shown to be, particularly more associated with a certain sin than any other monster. Now, with the disclaimer out of the way, let's start with the first sin. Sloth. And quite frankly, this one's kinda easy. We all know it. It's Espinas. Regular Espinas. This one's pretty simple. All the dude wants to do is sleep. Even when a hunter is walking towards him and it's hitting him and being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this motherfucker into boots. He's still like, 5 more minutes. Just let me sleep, bruh. Like, if you don't get your ass up and start doing shit, and this isn't just for him sleeping. It's also how he sometimes hunts. Because in Sunbreak, if you go actually watch him, what does he do to catch some of his food, which is toads? That's right, he just sits there and stands still, waiting for a toad to come in nearby. Oh, well, Spottable, doesn't a lot of animals do that in the real world? Yeah, a lot of animals stand still so, they can blend in. But this motherfucker always sleeps. And then when he's actually hunting, he's standing still and with his mouth just open, okay, I'm ready, jump in. If you don't get your ass out in the field and start hunting, because his defense is so good, he doesn't feel like he needs to actually, stand up and really defend himself until he's already being, jumped on by, 4 hunters. And if you really want to be okay, well, calm down. Maybe he actually is moving around and we just don't see it. Motherfucker, he's got a gut. He has a gut. I ain't never seen a monster with a gut before. He's so lazy and doesn't get any exercise, he forms a gut. This wyvern has a gut. I can't get over that. How the fuck? How do you do that? This had to be one of the easiest monsters to appoint a sin to. Espinas, the sin of sloth. And for the next sin, greed. And at first, I wasn't really sure who to pick. I thought maybe Ataukal, because he kinda hoards things from old settlements to build his nest. But that didn't really feel too right. And just a little bit longer of thinking, it hit me. Kolv Taroth. Now, at first, it might not be obvious as to why Kolv Taroth is greed. But honestly, it's kind of right in front of us. It all stems from the gold that Kolv Taroth surrounds herself with. Now, being surrounded by gold doesn't necessarily mean that someone is greedy, but it's how Kolv Taroth uses and interacts with the gold that makes me think she is greedy. So let's start with the first thing that you notice when you look at Kolv Taroth, how she uses the gold on her body. She doesn't really use it like armor because it doesn't even cover her entire body, at least all that bottom part area. Obviously, she still has some gold stuff, a little bit on her upper parts. It's not real armor, like with Shara Ishvalda, having rock surround his entire body to the point where he looks almost like a golem. Now that's armor. Kolv Taroth doesn't use it like that. In fact, it doesn't really seem to have a real valuable benefit. She's slower while she has all that gold on her, and she doesn't even use it to really attack people. I mean, yeah, she can hit people with it, but she could do the same thing with just the gold not there. The gold doesn't really seem to have a purpose other than for display, which is kind of unique for a monster to have this level of display on for no real actual beneficial purpose. Hi, future editing Spottable here. I want to take a second to make sure that there's no misinterpretation of what I'm saying with Kolv Taroth's gold armoring. I'm not saying that the gold that she wears on her body is useless and doesn't protect her at all. It's just that using gold as armor doesn't make a lot of sense. Her chest and her 2 front legs, no gold. But then there is so much gold on her tail and backside pride that it just seems inefficient. A lot of drag, and the fact of all that gold weighing down on her, yeah, it makes her really slow. And probably the worst thing about wearing gold for armor is that when she enrages, her body temperature softens the gold on her body, making it extremely easy to break, to the point where I'm pretty sure an Urgon slamming his chin down where all that gold is on her tail would destroy all that gold.
And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
It just seems inefficient how she's using all this gold. So for me, she's using it more as a display than actual proper armor. Maybe you guys understood what I said before, but I just didn't want there to be any misunderstandings. And yeah, with that out of the way, back to current Spottable. But it's not just the fact that she wears the gold that makes her greedy, it's also the gold that surrounds her. You know, all the gold in the caverns of El Dorado. Because it kind of seems like Koltaroth finds these huge clumps and mining outcrops of gold to make her home. It would make sense why we don't see her anywhere else in any other volcanic area, or where there's large stockpiles of like minerals and crystals like the Elder's Recess. We don't see her there. So she finds an area stockpiled full of gold. What does she do with it? Honestly, I don't know. At first I was like, well, maybe she kind of eats it? Maybe? I mean, we do know that Gogmazios finds like old military settlements and eats the gunpowder there. That's why he's there. We know that Lunastra and Teostra eat gunpowder and some mining outcrops. That's why they kind of have like, you know, their fiery blast stuff, right? Okay, that kind of makes sense a little bit. But Koltaroth doesn't seem to eat any of the gold that's all around her, and I only really say that because it's everywhere. And if she was eating that stuff, why are the caverns so big yet still full of so much gold? I don't really see a reason as to why she particularly goes and finds gold. Not to mention that she is constantly expanding the caves in El Dorado. But I don't see a reason for her to do this because the caverns already are big enough for her. So she's just going out and expanding it to find more gold for no real reason. The only reason that I can think of is that she can find more areas that have gold in it, haul them out, and just have more room where she can lay down and be surrounded by more gold. Is that not greedy? The fact that she goes out of her way to dress herself in gold and expands her territory and finds areas with so much gold to not even really use it. She just wants more gold just to have it, just because she wants it, not because she needs it. So while I really like Koltaroth, I cannot deny the fact that Koltaroth is greed. Now for the sin that I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me on, the sin of pride. And I have to say it again, a lot of monsters are prideful. Every single one of them thinks that they are on top. So I kind of decided to choose a monster that not just in-game would be prideful, but narratively should also be prideful. So I believe that Safi Jiva should be the sin of pride. And while Safi doesn't have any like moments with other monsters or with the hunters that would suggest pride, narratively, it makes a lot of sense. So you know how I said that every monster thinks that they're the shit? They are on top?
You see it? I really did this. I'm really him.
But with Safi Jiva, that actually might be the case. Because Capcom wanted Safi Jiva to be an equal rival to Fatalis, the strongest monster. And there are still like videos and Reddit forums about like people arguing who would win, Safi Jiva or Fatalis. So to say that Safi Jiva would be prideful thinking that he is the shit, that he is on top, makes sense. Also in game, him performing one of the strongest attacks in Monster Hunter also kind of supports the fact that yeah, he would think he is the shit. Speaking of in-game, Safi Jiva's name in Wyverian language means perfect life.
Get off that nigga dick, bro. What is you doing?
And some people think it also means perfect being. Is that not crazy? Imagine this dude was an anime character and you had side characters being like, oh, he's the perfect being, he's the ultimate power. Hell yeah, you would feel pride because you're like, yeah, I'm that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay. Okay? Are you? Absolutely.
Now I understand that's kind of humanizing a monster, but still, I think you guys understand where I'm coming from. And yeah, calling him the perfect being and him being prideful because he thinks he is that might sound a little crazy until you realize what he is. He's an elder dragon that was made by collecting hundreds and hundreds of dead monsters' bioenergy, including elder dragons. And even as an adult, Safi Jiva still has the power to lure and manipulate elder dragons. dragons. And that's another thing that makes him prideful. It's that to Safijiva, everyone is just energy. You're not a living being. You're just made to die so that I can feed off you. Your purpose in life is to die for me, which is a very prideful mindset. And I have to mention it again. I understand that I'm kind of humanizing this monster because in game, yeah, there's nothing to really suggest that Safijiva is prideful. But narratively, with everything else, it just makes so much sense. Being like, yeah, Safijiva would be the most prideful motherfucker ever. Being called the perfect life form in game, the fact that he can manipulate other elder dragons and is the accumulation of a shit ton of other monsters' bioenergy. And then Capcom themselves saying that he should be a rival to Fatalis. Yeah, I think he would be the perfect fit for Pride. Now, I do understand, hunters, you guys will be like, no, this monster is more prideful. No, this monster is more prideful. Yada, yada, yada. But listen, in my eyes, Safijiva is the sin of pride. Now, this next sin is going to be a curveball, I'm not gonna lie. That being the sin of lust. You guys are probably thinking, oh, it's gotta be the male Misasune. Oh, it's gotta be the female Black Diablos. And while those are good guesses, those monsters don't really scream lust to me. Maybe the most male Misasune because they're so aggressive when they're horny. That's why we hunt them and not the females, because the females are chill, the males are horny and get in the way of things. Yet despite that, it's not either of those monsters. No, the one that will be appointed the sin of lust will be the hunters. I told you guys it was going to be a curveball. The title of the video isn't monsters in Monster Hunter, it's the 7 deadly sins of Monster Hunter. And I'm not talking about the in-game sweet beans, the ones who are going out and risking their lives fighting monsters, you motherfuckers. I'm talking about us, the players, those hunters. Because just straight up, all of you guys are horny. And it's not even for like the humans, like the quest gal or the handler. It's not even for them. I mean, there is a lot of horniness for them. Funny enough, I think there's more horny people for the monsters than there are for the humans.
Why are you the way that you are?
The sexy girls? Yeah, no, we don't want those. We want the monsters. What is wrong with y'all? You know, I knew people sexualize some stuff in Monster Hunter. I knew that. But I didn't realize how bad it was until I was looking up a thumbnail for my Smasher Pass Elder Dragon video. Originally, I was going to have Call of Taroth in the thumbnail, so I was looking up like anime Call of Taroth, and I was like, oh, let me look on DeviantArt. That was the worst mistake of my life. Because the moment I typed in Call of Taroth's name, I didn't even type in anything else, just the name. This is what it was like.
What the fuck?
Holy shit, dude, what's the matter? What's going on?
There's so much porn!
Again, I understand with the internet, there's porn of everything. If it's on the internet, there's porn of it. I understand that. But the Grandma Palico cook? Are we dead ass? You guys need Jesus. And even then, I think he has his work cut out for him. But sadly, I can't even be on my high horse too much. I'm part of the problem. Okay, well, not like the really bad problem, but like, I literally made a video on Smasher passing Elder Dragons. Okay, so it's essentially a giant volcano. A lot of it is made of rock, and it probably wouldn't feel a thing, but my dick's gonna be harder than the rock, so you know what? Smash. I didn't even remember Gemma's name until like somewhat recently, because every time I saw her, I just called her Biddies. Hey, Biddies!
Reasons. That seems wise. If we're lucky, someone there might have some information about the keeper.
I'm sorry, I kind of zoned out. What are we talking about? Sounds good. Biddies, you coming?
Good morning.
Biddies. I'm part of the issue, so I feel like the hunters, aka the players, are the sin of lust. But now, time to go from horny to unfiltered rage, because it's time to talk about the sin of wrath. When I was thinking of which monster to pick for which sin, this was one of the first and easiest ones to come up with. Chaotic Gore Magala. And because of what Chaotic Gore Magala is, which is what happens when a Gore Magala fails to molt into a Shaguru Magala, yeah, Chaotic Gore Magala has nothing to live for anymore. I mean, that is the entire purpose of a Gore Magala, to reach maturity and transform into a Shaguru Magala, and Chaotic Gore Magala failed. It has no reason to keep on living. And you think that Chaotic Gore Magala is just going to sit there and be like, well, I guess that's it. Hell no. Now affected by his own frenzy virus, he's going to make his problem everyone's problem. And honestly, I don't blame him, because not only did he not achieve what he was made to do, but to, you know, really twist the knife knife into the wound. Throw some salt, throw some lemon juice into the wound. It's not his fault he couldn't properly molt. It's not a performance issue on his part. It's because a Shagru Magala actually interfered with Gore Magala's molting process. Like, straight up, Shagru Magala cucked Gore Magala, and now Gore is a chaotic Gore Magala.
Did I just catch you wanting to be shit?
And you want to know what the worst part of this is? Chaotic Gore Magala can't even take its anger out on the Shagru that screwed him over. Because in reality, the Shagru Magala should be almost nowhere near where the Gore Magala would be molting at.
Kill me! I'm in constant pain!
Meanwhile...
So all Chaotic Gore Magala can do is take its anger out on everything else. And we see this with Bishaden. Because goddamn, man, why are you throwing him around like a ragdoll? Just kill him. And some of you might be thinking, oh, you should have picked Raging Brachydios. You should have picked Deviljho. You should have picked Rajang. And honestly, those are good picks. But again, with Chaotic Gore Magala, he has nothing to live for. Since he's affected by his own frenzy virus, he's going to eventually die. And there's no point of eating because the whole point of eating as a Gore Magala is to mature into a Shagru Magala. So all he's doing is just going around killing everything around him before he eventually dies. Destruction without purpose. Is that not the sin of wrath? Chaotic Gore Magala is a sad case. I do actually feel bad for this monster. And high key, him being pissed off at the world makes sense. However, I can feel bad for him, but I can also say that Chaotic Gore Magala is the sin of wrath. Now on to the next sin, being the sin of gluttony. Stop right there, Spottable. I already know what monster you picked. You do? Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious. I mean, I guess, yeah, it is obvious. Okay, on the count of 3, we say what the monster's name is. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Nakarkos. What? What do you mean Nakarkos? Obviously, it should be Deviljho. Yeah, I can see how a lot of you might think Deviljho, but hold up, let me cook and explain why it's Nakarkos. Now, what is the sin of gluttony? It's pretty much just overindulgence. And usually we associate that with food and like overconsumption, which is what I'm going to be using for Nakarkos, because holy shit, look at this. Sometimes we kind of forget, you know, because we're fighting the monster, but this entire area are bones. People say that Deviljho destroys an ecosystem by eating too much. Yeah, cool, whatever. Nakarkos can make an entire mountain of bones just by eating things. But Nakarkos eating more isn't actually why he's the sin of gluttony, because yeah, Deviljho definitely eats a lot, but it's not like Deviljho wants to eat a lot. He has to eat a lot. Because Deviljho is such a big monster and his metabolism is through the roof, he has to constantly be eating, because if he doesn't, he'll die. The same thing cannot be said for Nakarkos. He's really out here eating for the love of the game, because even bigger monsters than Nakarkos don't cause this much trouble for ecosystems. And maybe I might give him some slack if he was really only just in the ocean ruining like ocean ecosystems and shit like that.
Where did everybody go?
But that's not the case, because we see that Nakarkos has parts of a Glavenus and a Brachydios. Glavenus can be found in forest, and Brachydios can be found in volcanic areas. Dog, that's not the ocean. Where are you going? Motherfucker driving 10 hours away to get a Big Mac called Brachydios. Like that fat ass friend that had 3 surfings for dinner, but then you can hear his big ass going through the fridge at 2 in the morning. I feel like for Nakarkos, I don't have to sell you the idea that he is gluttony, because again, just look around. Bro does not need to eat this much. I mean, he's straight up overindulging himself. His fat ass is not beating the gluttony allegations. The proof is right in front of us. So Nakarkos is easily the sin of gluttony. And now, for the last sin, the sin of envy. And unlike all the other sins, this has to have been the hardest sin to point to a monster, because no monster really feels like it's envious of another monster or anything. But I think I was able to find a monster that fit the sin of envy, but you're definitely going to have to listen to me, and it will be sometimes seeming a little loosey-goosey with my reasoning. Just bear with me, okay? I believe that Arkveld should be the sin of envy, because the simple short definition of envy is wanting someone's trait or possession. And what is the one thing that Arkveld is known for? That's right, taking other monsters' elemental energy, and specifically their elemental energy. Not their bioenergy, but their elemental energy. By the way, take a shot every time I say elemental energy. I'm going to be saying it a lot. You might pass out. And I think you could correlate Arkville stealing elemental energy from other monsters as envy, because he only does it with monsters that have elemental powers. A Seregios, a Odogaron, a Dashaguma, they're all safe because they don't have something that he wants. And want is a key word here, because in reality, Arkville doesn't need other monsters' elemental energy. The Guardian Arkville and the regular Arkville don't need it. For regular Arkville, it's just a way to drain monsters' energy and convert it into dragon energy. But he doesn't need to do that. He's already a strong monster as it is, like in his base form. He's still a regular animal like all the other monsters in Monster Hunter. He just needs food and water to technically live. So draining monsters' energy is just a bonus. And you might say, oh well, Guardian Arkville actually needed to drain monsters' elemental energy to live. And to that I say, no he fucking doesn't. Guardian Arkville is, surprise, a guardian. It could just do what all the other guardians do to get their supply of power. From the wyvern milk, which god damn, why did they fucking call it that? Wyvern milk? Ugh. However, it is true that a Guardian Arkville did need to drain other monsters' elemental energy so that it can leave the ruins of Wyveria while still being able to live. But again, Guardian Arkville didn't need to do that to live, because let's say there were no monsters anywhere at all, he would still have all the wyvern milk he would need to live. But let's circle back to why I think Arkville is the sin of envy. I'm sure a lot of you know that when you're envious of someone, it's usually because you can't have what that person has, and you want it for yourself. Well, the same thing happens with Arkville, because while Arkville can take on a lot of monsters, he can't take on all of them. Case in point, Jin Dahad, because Jin Dahad is a massive monster with an abundant amount of ice elemental energy. But funny enough, because of that, Jin Dahad is too strong for Arkville to take down. I do believe that Arkville would try to take down Jin Dahad, but in the end would fail. But since Arkville can't take down Jin Dahad will always seem like an unobtainable goal. I mean, just look at all of that elemental energy just waiting to be taken. Surely Arkville will put all that elemental energy better to use than Jin Dahad. He wants it. He wants it. He wants it. But he can't have it. Like I said a second ago, I'm pretty sure Arkville does actually try to take down Jin Dahad because he really wants all that nice, juicy ice elemental energy. So yeah, I think Arkville is envy because he specifically wants other monsters' elemental energy for himself. Not because he needs it, but because he wants it. So to me, Arkville is the sin of envy. So there you have it, the 7 deadly sins of Monster Hunter. I feel like I did a pretty good job at explaining why I chose certain monsters and hunters for a specific sin, but you guys let me know in the comments. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, please, for me and the monsters that didn't make it on this list because they're good beans, hit the subscribe and the like button. This video took me so long to do. So for you hunters that are still here, I'm going to ask you something that I don't usually ask. If you know someone that likes Monster Hunter, show them this video. Share the love. I would greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, I will see you all in the next video. Stay safe, my hunters.